depends on where you find that they must look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. If you're just joining us, I can say that you have missed a lot. But not to worry, you can catch up when you follow us on all our social media platforms. Don't forget, you can have a repeat of this, watch and share to friends when you log on to our YouTube page. Subscribe and share to friends. That's what I meant by that. Now it's time for us to look at the front pages of dailies, some selected dailies that we'll be looking at this morning. We have a reviewer here in the studio as well, but we'll be starting with Daily Trust. Let's start from the home front, where we have a lead story coming from Kano. It says Kano Tribunal sacks Governor Yusuf, declares a Gawuna a winner. And that's the lead story this morning in the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. The writers attached to the story says government imposes 24-hour curfew and business owners close shops. And the last writer says NPP to appeal, APC applauds a verdict. Okay, that's the pictorial in front. We have Gawuna and Abubakar Yusuf in front there, with Gawuna smiling so much with a court judgment.
At least round one, Gawuna wins.
Okay, round one. So, you're saying it like it's a boxing
Mortal Kombat.
match.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that.
All right, and above that we have U.S. court orders varsity to release Tinubu's academic records, and that story is on page 10.
I really couldn't be less interested.
Okay.
With the whole academic thing, I think it's like a fool's errand at this point. Really.
Oh, we'll keep saying it, and we'll keep following up on the story since some sections of Nigerians are very interested in the story. Another one says 5.2 trillion naira remitted to Federation accounts in 6 months, and that's coming from RMAFC. And then the Ondo Assembly moves to impeach Deputy Governor, alleges misconduct. You can find that story on page 10. And the Daily Trust newspaper. And then the bottom strip, we have petrol subsidy back as federal government pays 169.4 billion naira in August. That's a lot of money.
It's not just the money. I think based on principle, this is wrong. Some under-the-table payment. I know they're going to find an excuse to explain it.
I think
but I can't wait to digest this one.
We talked about it on Monday. When we sensed that
on Tuesday, I think
the president's insistence. That was a Monday on pegging the petrol pump price at 617 naira.
And the only way you could do that is if you subsidize it.
Exactly.
That's the only measure of control you can have when you're dealing with a deregulated sector.
More coming from Daily Trust newspaper. Naira crashes to 970 naira at black market. Page 19 has more details of this. And then IGP orders clamp down on killers of security operators in Imo. Page 7 has that story. And then on ground rent, allottees besiege AGIS, that is AGIS, and FCTA rakes in over 1.9 billion naira in 9 days. In days, okay, I don't want specific. Page 22.
Did you pay yours?
Number of days.
Did you pay yours?
Wow. Are we doing this right now?
I'm just asking.
Yes, I think I did. Maybe I did. I'm not so sure about that. Okay, that's the stories we'll be taking from the front page of the Daily Trust. You grab a copy, you get more details of the stories that we have read out this morning.
People's Daily is up next, so let's take a look at the front page of the People's Daily. More from Kano, but we start from a development in Enugu State where Mba can't forge NYSC certificate and be Enugu governor, according to Adeoga. I think this is someone crying over spilled milk, because the Supreme Court has already affirmed his victory there. So if you're interested anyway, you can find more on this story on page 11. Federal government allays fears over planned indefinite labor strike. You know what? Do the needful. It is not inevitable. The strike is not inevitable. It is only inevitable if the government doesn't do the right thing. On easy calm, as Tribunal sacks Governor Abba, declares Gawuna winner of Kano Guba, and you have the picture there of the national chairman of the APC, who, more importantly in this case, is former governor of Kano State. I think he's one of the happiest persons as far as this development is concerned, and also the winner of that tribunal judgment, Gawuna, in the center there, immaculately dressed, and he's also flanked by one of the senators from Kano, Senator Gaya, actually in that picture. But below that picture, in the strip, you can see Naira crashes to 983 Naira to the dollar as scarcity of Forex continues and hits Forex traders. Nigeria among most litigious countries in the world, according to the CJN. Is he complaining? Or is he just acknowledging the facts? Yeah, at least we have the courts functioning to some degree, so that in itself is something. We cannot issue our payments to contractors without visiting sites, according to Umahi. He's still blowing hot, and I must say that I appreciate that kind of proactiveness. Dambata says Africa can tackle food insecurity, poverty through AI. Now, AI stands for artificial intelligence, and I can't wait to pick his brains about that. I think we're still struggling using the traditional basic stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes it's just wishful thinking,
Yeah.
But also, there are some valid points there. House of Reps Committee summons Acting Controller General of Customs, and we brought you a story about how angry that House of Representatives Committee is with regards to the non-compliance to 2 invitations it sent to the Nigeria Customs. But that's it on the People's Daily for today. You can also find more from the from President Tinubu's speech and activities at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, the 78th General Assembly.
All right, let's move on to Daily Independent, which seems to have the same pictorial representation of Senator Gaya, Gawuna, and of course Ganduji there. And that is linked to the story at the right-hand side of the masthead, which says NMPP vows to appeal Kano Governorship Tribunal judgment. And the state government imposes 24-hour curfew, and Bauchi governor commands tribunal for upholding on victory. That story is standard on the front page, but continue reading further inside the Daily Independent. And then the left-hand side of the masthead, we have U.S. court orders Chicago Varsity to release Tinubu's records to Atiku. All right, it started on the front page as well. Read further in the Daily Independent. And the big story this morning says Edo asked federal government to explain source of 5 billion naira palliatives to states. Wow, okay. All right, you
I
can
remember
get more
this is I think this is something that Governor Obaseki has been doing for the past couple of years, always questioning the government's approach. I remember during the last 2 years of the Buhari administration, he did something similar when I think the CBN was pumping certain money into circulation. Yeah, and I think he alleged that some 50 billion naira was printed, or 60 billion or so. So I don't know what the
let's see,
goal
there will
is.
be an answer from the federal government, so keep you updated on that if the news eventually breaks. But right now, let's take a look at a story that's just below the lead story this morning, the Daily Independent. It says 300 million naira bulletproof jeep. Ondo Assembly begins impeachment process of deputy governor, and it seems this has been on since Rotimi Akeredolu returned from his medical trip.
Classic persecution or witch hunt. Because I think there's a purge going on right now within the government.
I think the purge started the second day of his return from his medical trip. Okay, page 7 has details of that story. Then Obowari endorses Serap's report on Niger Delta. That story is on page 7. And Lagos rakes in 400 billion naira IGR internal generated revenue in 6 months. Page 7 also
always
has
like to show off.
Yeah, I think page 7 has a lot of stories you might want
Lagos
to
likes to rub it in the face of every other state in this country.
Okay, I think
how rich they are.
In a good way, other states should do that.
Not when you're the one intimidated, it's not.
Lifting Nigerians out of poverty requires paradigm shift. That's coming from a rep speaker. Okay, rep speaker. Page 6 accommodate that story. And then Naira woes continue as it exchanges for record 985 Naira per dollar.
I wish the papers were the ones selling this, because you
So
hear
you can have just taken out of it.
983,
Yes,
here you get 985,
970,
yeah.
yes. And then Nigeria to hold low-key independence anniversary. That's coming from Akume. All right, page 6 has that. The reasons why we'll be having to have a low-key independence anniversary. You get details, all of that. And that's the last story we'll be taking from the front page of the Daily Independent this morning.
All right, the nation is up next. Dangote Refinery says we will take off without crude from NNPCL. That is something that we've come to learn over the past 48 hours, how the NNPCL says it is committed to a point where it cannot supply our own private refinery, the Dangote Refinery.
They're meeting next deadline now?
I think he's going to have to find crude elsewhere because they said that their hands are tied. They already committed. They're doing the whole oil swap deal, and they cannot guarantee his access to crude oil. Maybe he cannot get the certain quantity that he wants. So it's safe to say that he's not going to get it from Nigeria. And I suppose that complicates the situation further, because then if he has to import it, be rest assured that the price is not going to be cheap when the PMS is finally refined.
So the problem has not been solved yet.
At all. More on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Ondo House steps up move to remove deputy governor. It's only a matter of time from the way I see it. Nigeria's solid minerals deposit worth $700 billion, according to the minister, Dele Alaki. Ogun plans trial for suspected Shagamu cultist, and the governor recently, gave us very stern position on cultism in the state. In fact, I think there was a new prescription for cultist activities in the state. Oluremi, my wife, friend, and partner, says Tinubu, President celebrates First Lady at 66. I was wondering why the admission, and then I just remember it's her birthday. Of course, she's your wife and your partner. So yes, our First Lady is 63. She's as old as Nigeria, even older with a couple of months.
Wow.
As we prepare to celebrate our 63rd anniversary. So happy 63rd anniversary to the First Lady.
Couple of months or days?
Days, just weeks actually.
Weeks.
Yeah, maybe a week. Just a week. Political cases consuming court's time, says CJN. I think that's what's supposed to happen. That's what the courts are there for, Mr. CJN. Planned strike. NLC keeps federal government in suspense. And Secretary to the Government of the Federation says ministers meet with Vice President Shatima. Labour state chapters waiting for go ahead. And was a seemingly simple day for the president yesterday as he rang the closing bell yesterday at NASDAQ, and
Wow.
they look very cheerful. Obviously you would be if you're in that crowd.
I should be there.
You should be there. Okay. Tribunal voids 165,000 NNPP votes, sacks Kano governor. We've heard this story over and over again. So that's it on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
All right, so the Guardian came up with a very interesting mathematics and percentage, and let's start with the big story that says non-passage of bill 15 years after threatens a $77 billion telecom industry. And the non-passage of the CNI, which is the Critical National Infrastructure Bill, threatens that huge amount of money. You can see a representation there. There's a chart. There's a lot of money going on there.
Daily Trust a run for its money when it comes to infographics, because this is good.
This is good. I think Daily Trust does a lot too when it comes to infographics. It's
really, no, they don't compare. Don't get me wrong. They don't compare.
Come on. And then we have the story just below the elite story. It's about coup. Why military incursion is not solution to leadership deficit. All right, that story is on page 4. And then curfew and Kano, jubilation in Abuja as Tribunal sacks Governor Yusuf. I haven't seen so
what
much.
What has Abuja got to do with any of it?
In Abuja, I haven't seen that. I live in Abuja. You live in Abuja. Have you seen,
I don't think there was any jubilation. Maybe some Kano persons were happy about it. Exactly. And I know also the Monsieur guy in my area in Wuye, I'm definitely not going to buy suya from him for a very long time, because he said to me, if Gawuna wins, he's never even going back to Kano. I said, what about your wife and children? He said, well, he doesn't know, but he's not going back to Kano. So
wow.
That's how personal. That's how personal, Kano people take politics.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have NEC orders reimbursement of customers on the map by discos. Page 3 has the story. An economist warned on spiraling inflation, hike in prices of petroleum products. Page 3 has that. An Ondo Assembly begins impeachment proceedings against a deputy governor. All right, and then the last story we're taking this morning says federal government plans low-key independence anniversary. Page 29 has more details of that story, and that seems to be the last paper we'll be taking this morning. Of course, yes. Let's see. Yeah. Do you have any? No.
Let's bring in our guest. Maya Nasser has been listening to us patiently, and I dare say that Maya Nasser, editor-in-chief of Dateline Nigeria newspaper, is also immaculately dressed today. I wish Sunday was here. I'm sure he would have had a lot more to say about it than me. But it's good to see you, Maya Nasser. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Any special occasion this morning?
Yeah, I'm actually heading to an event immediately after this.
Okay.
So
I was wondering, maybe it was because of the celebration that was on the Guardian, celebration in Abuja. I was going to ask, what's the venue?
Maybe it's part of the celebration in Abuja. I don't know.
No, maybe what they are talking about is the fact that Ganduje and even Gawuna, made their press conference here in Abuja.
Right, okay.
That's what they meant.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. I think there was a location I was going to ask.
No.
Okay, give us your journalistic reading of the tribunal judgments yesterday. I mean, there was one in Bauchi that affirmed the victory of Governor Bala Mohammed, but Kano stole the day. It's the biggest news story in the country yesterday. What is your reading of the developments there?
Well, let me start by saying that it's good that the governor has already indicated, his interest to take it further. That's to appeal the case to the Court of Appeal. But, this is election, and we are talking about Kano, the most populous, state in Nigeria. And the fact that the tribunal cancelled a total of 165,000 votes, I don't know if that is a first or something that has happened before, because I also read somewhere that constitutionally the returning officer has the, right, discretion to accept votes that are not signed if he thinks or if he believes that they have met all the necessary requirements. But the tribunal is telling us otherwise, and the governor has, like I said, indicated interest that he intends to take this further. I don't know how far he can go because sometimes it's possible that the tribunal, the Court of Appeal may decide to upturn the verdict of
So did this verdict come as a shock to you?
Well, this is politics. Honestly, I'm not in any way interested in who happens to be the governor of Kano. My job is basically to be able to get the people benefit from whoever is, governing them. Because even from the celebration that I saw and the counter, is it celebration or
protest or
protest?
Or solidarity.
Yes.
They don't know how politicians.
And what do you make of the temperature of Kano? Because the concern and the worry, to a point where the NJC recommended a virtual reading of the judgment. The justices or the judges were not in person at the court yesterday to deliver the judgment. I believe they were somewhere else, whether it's Abuja or somewhere else. That was the case. But that also is a reflection of the security concern that is there. What is your reading of the temperature of Kano at this moment?
Well, if you remember, it started actually long before the verdict of the tribunal. We had the secretary to the state government. We had a commissioner who was even sacked. We had an aide to the governor who was also sacked because of the utterances they made.
Yeah.
And so the temperature actually started going up long before the probably that was even the reason why they had to do it via Zoom. But honestly, if you ask me my own personal opinion, I think they should have, been in Kano, in the court premises or the tribunal premises.
Regardless of the threats?
Yes, to be able to, of course, there should be security because the security was deployed, I think, even 48 hours to the verdict.
Yeah.
So maybe, because if you truly believe in what judgment you are given, honestly, you should be able to, stand by it.
Now, on the part of the media and, prior to sit-ins and proceedings, how would you gauge the whole happenings? Yes, we have reports that some reporters were, harassed. Journalists were not allowed into the courtroom.
There's just a limited number of journalists in the courtroom for the proceeding. And also that was the case in Bauchi, for instance, where the registrar of the court said no journalists will be allowed. They did allow a handful of journalists also to cover the proceedings.
But they should know that journalists have a constitutional responsibility actually to do what they are doing. It's not as if they just want to do it for...
they're not there for the gossip or anything.
Or for their Facebook.
Or even influence the judgments in one way or the other.
They can only report. And somehow, even the tribunals, they actually rely on the media, to be able to reach the people, because without the media, even the explanations, the thinking that, goes into the judgment that you are passing. Honestly, without the media, how can you explain it to the people? Because like we said, very few people can actually make it to the court. But for the journalists, they have a responsibility to actually do that. So if you stop them from discharging their functions, then certainly, it's even possible that people can start accusing you of having something
Phones
to
were smashed yesterday, and from the report that we got, I think one of our staff had that, altercation with one of the security agents around the court. But away from that, this next on the paper that we'll be looking at, next agenda, it's about the fuel subsidy. Fuel is like gold now. Everybody's talking about it, like a drop of it. Like somebody is just doing something very bad to your body. That's how I feel. I don't know about other people. Now, petrol subsidy back as federal government pays 169.4 billion naira in August. What can we make of this?
Well, I think it exposed the fact that the government was not open. The last time it spoke about the subsidy, because I remember two presidential aides, telling the media that there is no reason to even increase the price of petroleum. But if you are talking about a deregulated sector, honestly, by now we should have seen an increment, maybe around 750 to 800, based on what the marketers are saying. But from the mood of the country, I don't think Nigerians will want to tolerate any further increment for now, because so many people are having a very difficult time, so to say, because if you talk about transportation, if you talk about the cost of food, if you talk about so many things, and you can see even the price of diesel, has crossed 1,000 in so many places.
Yeah, well, Nasser, doesn't this double speak when the president in his inaugural speech and several other nationwide addresses insist on removing subsidy? And now we understand that there is some sort of under-the-table arrangement for a quasi-subsidy regime. Doesn't this then, indict the integrity of the government? Because it seems to be dishonest at this point. If there is no subsidy and Nigerians are meant to believe that we're no longer financing subsidy, how come we're spending hundreds of billions of naira to maintain the price at 600 plus?
Honestly, like you said, it does. Nigerians can question the integrity of the government based on this, because if you say one thing and then you end up doing another, then you are giving yourself up for all kind of speculations, all kind of accusations, because this is the government that told Nigerians, that it has deregulated the sector. So with that, you know, there shouldn't be any mode of payment. You know, the market should be allowed to determine the price of petroleum products. Because
so don't you think that, you know, you stated this earlier, that with the economic hardship Nigerians are facing, we cannot afford to go further with this payment. In their defense, don't you think that, you know, this is necessary evil at this point? Well,
because maybe they made the pronunciation to talking about the removal of the subsidy even before putting certain things in place. Like they are still counting on the Dangote refinery. And, you know, from what we read in the media, maybe in the next 2 weeks, they will start with diesel and...
with a Dangote refinery that is not getting fuel from NNPCL.
No,
I think compounding the problem.
No, I think the explanation that they made yesterday was the fact that, yes, they're expecting crude from the NNPC. That's the explanation that...
With no timeline at the moment.
Yeah, with no timeline. But they are looking at November, actually. That's what they said. But they are starting with diesel and jet
A1.
Jet A1, the one that airlines are using, that they are starting in the next 2 weeks. Maybe that's what the government of Nigeria was counting on to make that pronouncement. But honestly, I don't think this is the way to go. If our refineries were in good state, you know, doing their running in full capacity, honestly, we wouldn't be talking about the fact that the oil has changed in the international market, and then anytime there is this change, we have to see changes in our own price regime. Honestly, that's not good.
Okay, just at the bottom strip there, to the right, ground rent, allottees beseech ages. FCTA rakes in over 1.9 billion naira in days. Weak effect in play here. What do you think is going on?
Yeah, I think, you know, he made that threatened, you know, those that's having allocations and what have you in the FCT, that, you know, they may lose their property if they don't do the right thing. And I don't know why Nigerians have to wait, you know, until you have these kind of situations, because right now I foresee a kind of, you know, panic, you know, some confusion in trying to make the payment, even though it will be done through banks and what have you. But some people may benefit from it because I foresee some people coming to say, okay, bring your own money, I can help you do 1 or 2 things, when in actual sense you could have done this much earlier and
without any fuss.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a very Nigerian characteristic, if you ask me. The Naira. I hope some people don't come to Media Trust to ask for access to the 970 Naira to the dollar.
That's the lowest.
But yeah, that's the lowest price. But give me a sense of this flotation. It's not working well for us. And that could further complicate the inflation situation that we're having to deal with. Even PMS itself. Because the dollar goes up, be rest assured that everything we buy with the dollar, if you convert it to Naira, the price is going to significantly go up. What is your take on the management of this situation? The president recently announced his nomination of Mr. Cardoso, Dr. Cardoso rather, as you know, his CBN pick, pending the Senate confirmation, alongside 4 other deputy governors of the central bank. This financial regulation sector itself is still in a crisis, fairly to say, isn't it? Yeah,
and somehow we've not been hearing from the coordinating minister, you know, for the economy, because so much, you know, has been said about him, what he was able to do in Lagos and Wale Edun. And this is Nigeria. We have not seen the magic wand, you know, so to say. But if you are talking about the price of dollar, you know, even the unification that the federal government is talking about, it seems not to be working, because you can see, what unification are you talking about when even the papers are reporting between 970 to 985. And it depends on actually who you are talking to, because if you go to like Zone 4 in Abuja, where you have most of the, you know, foreign currency transactions taking place, from one, you know, BDC to another, it's possible
the price could vary.
Yeah, because it's from the way you are able to source it, that's what you will use in
the price points.
Yeah, so that's basically the thing. So, like I said, with the fuel situation, it's clear that the government was not even ready for the unification because you don't have enough foreign currency in your possession
to stabilize the situation.
To stabilize the situation, but you have already made pronouncement, and Nigerians are using that to do all sorts of...
They appear to be walking back by, bringing in the BDCs into the arrangement with a much more organized pattern. But if we can just segue to the front page of the Punch of the Nation newspaper, I beg your pardon, the big headline there talks about planned strike, NNPC keeping the federal government in suspense. Now, we all know that the ultimatum is, the countdown is still on. TUC recently also issued its own warning, saying that, listen, we're willing to give you an extension up until the time elapses. But we also understand that after Monday and Tuesday's meeting with the NLC and the TUC, there is no headway. There's still no resolution yet. What do you make of the federal government's negotiation tactics, the content, and what they bring into the table? And while the organized labor thinks that it is not a good deal to actually take at this point?
Clearly, there was no deal for the NLC to even consider, because what I read in the media, the Minister for Labor and Employment, was like just pleading for understanding, begging them to understand, be patient, we need to have certain things in place, and this is something that will not last forever, we are looking at 2-3 months to be able to get things back to normal.
I think he's groveling at this point.
So honestly, for now, there is nothing for the NLC to consider, and unfortunately, even the NLC and the TUC are not like on the same page on this. While NLC is talking about ending its own ultimatum today, which means from tomorrow we may be able to see them embark on strike. And then the TUC is also giving the government 2 weeks, which is maybe fair, so to say. But honestly, the government should worry, because even without NLC, Nigerians are already tired, and they don't even know, what's going to be the government's next step. You can't be patient forever, and even this government, they have already taken 3 out of the 48 months that they have. And before you know it, in another 17, 18 months, we will start talking about 2027.
Are there low-hanging fruits from the demands of the NLC and the TUC that you think that, they can work on, especially on the wage demands, on certain concessions? Do you think there are low-hanging fruits that the government can deliver now that will probably pacify the organized labor to say, okay, maybe they deserve us to, ease off a little bit on the strike action?
Yes, I saw a story not long ago talking about, is it the president or something that was attributed to the president, talking about new minimum wage. But, having a new minimum wage in place is not something that can happen overnight, because you have to engage other stakeholders like employers of labor, because government is not the only one that employs people. There are, the private sector and what have you, and even the states. Right now there are so many states that are not even paying what obtains at the moment, especially at the local government level. If you go to Zamfara, if you go to a number of states,
there are so many of them.
They are still paying between 7,000 and 9,000 naira to local government workers. But like former President Obasanjo said, the fact that those local government workers are still going to work, it means they are finding ways of
augmenting their financing.
And that may come from resources that should go to the government.
Exactly.
Quickly, let's look at this infographic that you love so much. It's about the critical national infrastructure. And from everything that we saw right now, East and Northern Nigeria account for the highest rate of destruction. And the non-passage of this bill, it's leading to about 34,862 towers, 127,294 base stations that are endangered, and then, vandalism surges over 35%. Is this what we should be looking at right now, or should this bill just wait for some time?
Well, we should be looking at everything on the table, because the last time I checked, the Nigeria Security NSCDC, can't ever remember.
Yeah, NSCDC, Civil Defense.
Civil Defense.
Yes.
They are in charge of national assets. They are in charge of, all these things that we are talking about. And the government is paying them salaries, and then they are not able to discharge, that responsibility.
You think they are not doing so much?
No, they are not doing enough.
I mean, if they were, there wouldn't be that high vandalism.
35%.
And it's actually high. If it is something that you can say, you can explain, with one or two reasons. But honestly, I don't see it as anything.
Let's end on the Ondo House of Assembly trying to impeach the deputy governor. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we've become used to this rivalry between the governor and his deputy, especially when an election is just around the corner or when there's this sense of disloyalty. Governor Akeredolu is finally back, and thank goodness for that, for his health improving significantly. But even before his return, there were back and forths within the state. Forces loyal to the governor think the deputy governor is, trying to take over the state or whatever it is that they feared. Now the governor is back, and the State Assembly, almost on cue, is now initiating an impeachment procedure. We're also seeing some drama unfold in Edo State between Governor Obaseki and his deputy Shuaibu. What is your take on how all of these situations always find a way? I think Governor Makinde also had to deal with a similar situation with his deputy. What is going on here?
Well, because we don't have like a constitutional rule for the deputy governor, outside the fact that he's there in waiting, should anything happen to the governor, whether impeachment, death, or retirement, or anything. Maybe we should go the American way, so that, because in some states in the United States of America, actually the governor and his deputy can come from different parties. Maybe we should, start thinking along that line.
Maybe that would be too chaotic.
I think in Nigerian society, it could be chaotic.
It could be, but at least if we can guarantee, 4 years for the deputy governor, honestly, it will be good, because right now, between 1999 to 2023, we have had 17 or so deputy governors that have
been removed.
And sometimes the reasons that they give, like this one is being accused of using 300 million naira out of the 5 billion palliative to buy a bulletproof jeep. I remember there was one who was accused of running a poultry in the government house, and he was sacked because the lawmakers are there. They always find
a reason to give the dog a bad name so they could hang him. But we all know the politics at play. Anyway, Mahan Nasir, as always, thank you very much for your invaluable insight and for the analysis. We really do appreciate you stopping by this morning.
Thank you.
And good luck with the event later today. I know you didn't share enough details, but we reckon it's going to be a good one. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.